Welcome to episode 4 of the BizOwner360 series. I'm your host, Brett Trainer. As a quick reminder for first-time listeners, each episode of the 360 series will focus on a single topic, will be guest-free, and what I want to be able to do is give you the tactics and strategies to help you grow your business. Each episode builds off the previous one, but you don't have to listen in order. You can pick and choose the ones that are most relevant to you in your business or listen to them in order. So far in the series, we have covered why 10 million should be your growth target, why the vast majority of bootstrapped entrepreneurs and business owners get stuck, and a couple ideas and suggestions how to get unstuck. And then last episode, we touched on, why the changing buyer demands or expectations and a digital first approach to business makes now the greatest time ever to not only start, but build a scalable B2B business, right? The boundaries and the barriers to entry are down. You just have to be able to know which levers to push and when to push them. So we'll get into that a little bit today. So in this episode, I'll outline for you a system, the 0 to 10 system, to help you break through owner's capacity and move from where most of you probably are one-to-one selling to one-to-many and be able to grow. Growth in the B2B space is nuanced, and you have to understand the different revenue levers. You can't just hire a sales rep or a sales leader, or even a marketing leader for that matter, and expect to solve your growth problems. The system I'll outline in this episode is a combination of my experience in helping grow a startup from 0 to 14 million in less than 2 years. I should say just 2+ years. Man, we made a bunch of mistakes, but learned. Hundreds of interviews with subject matter experts and working with countless numbers of bootstrapped entrepreneurs and business owners on their growth strategies. And it's not rocket science, but you do need to have a plan and be able to prioritize your time and investment. The system was built specifically for bootstrapping entrepreneurs, since every dollar you spend is yours. You didn't raise a ton of money to spend and buy your way into growth. This is really about strategically making the right investments in both people, partners, marketing, etc. But you just can't wing it. You got to have a plan. If you do follow the plan, there's a good chance you'll be able to break through your growth bottlenecks. Okay. So again, the system is broken into 4 individual frameworks. I try to keep this as simple as possible so you can understand it from the macro level and then dig into the micro aspects of it. So, the 4 individual frameworks are an acronym I created to help you memorize it. And no, I didn't fit it to fit the acronym. It was just a coincidence that this actually works. So the acronym is ACEs, right? And the 4 components of it are align, connect, enable, and support. And these you really do need to do in order, or at least go back and double check that each of the 4, you have a sound foundation at each of those, and then you can build off of them. And like I said, in future episodes, we'll break down each of these 4 in much greater detail. I'll share some stories and examples of each of them. But for today, I just wanted to outline the general concept, give you the framework to think about, and then we'll dig in future episodes. So first is align, and this is all about alignment. Every organization, I don't care if you're a startup, a side hustle, you have to be aligned, 1, organizationally, and then 2, with your offering. So if you think about it from an organizational standpoint, I like to use the 4 Qs and a P, right? So it's again, try to keep things simple for you. Yeah, and the P is, what is the problem that you are solving? As an organization, what are you committed to? What is the problem for your customers at a macro level that you want to solve for them? From there, you have to align what I said, the 4 Qs, which is, the questions. Why are you, why is this important to you, right? What is your why? Simon Sinek talks about it, but I think it's really important that as you, as the owner, is able to communicate this to employees and ultimately to your customers. You have to have alignment on your why and be clear about it. And then 2, I think it's the customers you want to serve. So who are they? What is it you serve to them? And then lastly is, how do you serve it, right? What is your go-to-market model? So those 4 things have to be in alignment, because if they're not, then it's going to be really hard to communicate messaging and differentiation. So we'll get into that next week, but really at the top, it's really about creating alignment. That's organizationally. And then the next step is also at the offering level, being very specific about the buyer that you're going after. And again, the problems you solve, how you solve it differently, That's most importantly, because if it's pricing or we do it better, that's really hard to quantify, and it's usually a race to the bottom. So you got to think about how you're different and you approach these problems and solving the customer's problems differently. And then lastly, the proof points. Where have you done this before? So you can share with prospects how you were able to solve these problems. So it's just the validation piece. So you get through alignment again, which is not necessarily an easy task, but I think it's an absolutely critical assignment or foundational piece for any business. So let's assume now that you've got that taken care of, your messaging and positioning, everything's in alignment. Now it's connect, right? This is the biggest hurdle. Again, we've talked about the blockers being, the owners, but it's how do you connect with your ideal prospects that don't know you? A lot of the smaller, earlier stages in small businesses, right? You can do it through referrals or the owner's network, and you build a very nice business. But in order to scale, you've got to be able to break through and sell beyond the network. And the connect part of the framework is where we'll break down how you do this. If it was digitally, where are your prospects? How do you reach them? How do you provide value to those prospects when you reach them? Could be through channel partners, right? So we'll get into the how you connect with them and some, again, framework or tactics to think about as you try to start that process. So from a connect, hey, you're able to connect with your ideal prospect. You got them interested. Now, how do you enable them, right? So enablement really gets into, the process piece of the business. I've seen too many companies that, hey, we spent a good deal on digital marketing or spent some ads. However, they were generating leads that were coming into the business, but only had one part-time person that was actually doing the qualification or assisting, right, the folks that were actually raising their hand and say we're interested. So at a high level, the enable aspect, I break it into two pieces. One is buyer enablement. What are you doing from a company to allow your buyers to buy with the least amount of friction? How do you get them through that process as quickly and efficiently as possible? And then once you sell them, how do you enable those customers to unlock the value of your solution? I don't care if it's professional services or if it's, a widget. The idea is how quickly can that prospect, unlock the value of what that prospect is. So we'll talk about what that framework looks like in order to make sure you're covering the key activities and tasks as, from enablement. That's also when you get into some of the key metrics. What can we automate? Data. So this is really an operational heavy aspect of it, but it's critical. You have to have that infrastructure in order to process the number of leads and prospects that are coming through in order to scale that business. So, all right, let's assume we got enabled. The last piece, so we had align, connect, enable, and the S of ACEs is support, right? Because things will go wrong. And this is what your process is or approach or in the DNA of providing a great customer experience is what does that support look like for both prospects, right, needing help, and or customers that had a bad experience, couldn't get a hold of somebody. So it's really important to build this early as you start to scale, because this is one of those areas that, and you start to have breakdown in customer issues, you don't want to be solving it when your lead flow is growing. So super important to get that support right. So in summary for today's episode, introduce what the system looks like. 4 individual frameworks, easy to remember ACEs, which again stands for align, which is around your organization and your offerings. Connect, how do you connect with your ideal prospects? E, which is enable, right? This is enabling your internal processes to facilitate your buyers and your customers. And then S, which is support. What does the support infrastructure look like to take care of your customers when things do go wrong? So, like I said, in future episodes, we will break down each of these in more detail. I'll give you a few more specifics and some examples in each of these that hopefully provide a little bit more clarity. Again, until next time, thank you for listening. Any thoughts, questions, please do drop me a note. And as a favor, if you enjoy this series or the longer form interviews on Tuesdays, please do subscribe or follow the podcast on your favorite platform. Until the next episode, thanks and cheers.